Welcome to another vintage fishing reel service video. In this episode we have a Zebco Spinner 33 or Spinner Model 33, and this particular version of the 33 dates between 1967 and 1968. Among the features that put it in that time frame include the metal frame. So you can see that where the scratches are, there's metal underneath, so that's not Lexan. It has double flat or paddle-like knobs on the crank handle. The foot has a single rivet, and there's no feather touch feature, so there's no little hole and little mechanism in the spinner head that gives you the feather touch feature. Most people didn't particularly care for that. A lot of times they removed it anyway, but to get this apart, of course, you and I got this for about $5. If I see them for $5, maybe even $7, I'll buy them, every single one. So I've got a bunch of versions of the 33. I especially like the old stainless steel or aluminum, whatever they are, the old ones like this. Even if they have the Lexan frames. But to get the covers off, these are really designed for a coin. So if you have a coin on you, you just loosen that, and that allows you to make a counterclockwise turn, pull off that cover, and of course you can turn now counterclockwise and remove the rear cover. Alright, so let's put these in the parts tray and go ahead and get started. So to remove the spinner head, hold on to the handle and make a counterclockwise turn, and that will spin off. To remove the, oh boy, somebody's used this relatively recently. That's a more modern line, and it's quite frankly, it's not bound. It's probably somebody relatively recently has properly maintain this, but that looks like a much more modern line. But at any rate, to get the spool off, you just loosen this and remove this screw here. Probably wise also to have your drag completely loosened before you try removing spools and that kind of thing. And then, where is that? I'm going to just put that screw back in there so I don't lose it. Okay, so there's your, I'm almost half tempted to leave that line on there because that looks like it's pretty much brand new. I usually don't do that, but I'm pretty confident that's good line on there. Alright. So now we've got this little line stop here. So when you push in the button, this rubber piece comes up against the line, and as long as the button's pushed, the line's not going to come falling out until you release and cast the thing. So let's see here. Okay, so these are somewhat, the sides on this thing, these things here are somewhat flexible, so just push out and do the same on the other side, and then that piece will then come off, and so will the pinion gear shaft. I think you can, yeah, maybe not. Maybe it's best just to take that out altogether, and then that'll allow that to come out. And then it's probably a good idea at this point to remove the handle, and we can go ahead and, let's see here, got to get that pinion gear out, and it's not wanting to come out because there's a little rim on the bottom of the pinion gear. So we're going to probably have to take off this little bracket here so that we can push that main gear back a little bit and get that so that we can pull this, get that main gear back so we can pull out the pinion gear. And so now we should be able to push or pull that main gear out of there. And that's probably all I'm going to want to take apart of this thing. The rest of that stuff, I mean, I suppose you could, you could take off this E-clip right here and loosen, and so that spring would loosen up, and you could probably back this all the way out of the drag mechanism there. But I think I can lubricate without monkeying with that, and so I'm not going to take that apart. This is as far as I'm going to go with it. Okay, so I'm going to take all these parts to the sink and scrub them good with some WD-40 and some Dawn dishwashing soap, and get those all cleaned up, making sure I get down into all of the spaces and journals where the various shafts go, and I'll be back just like that. Okay, let's get all of our parts back out here. And take a little bit of steel wool. There's still some residue on there that just doesn't come off with a toothbrush and solvent, and so we'll just take a little steel wool and shine that up like new. Same way with the pinion gear shaft. And then we can go ahead, I think, and oil the main gear shaft and install that. You may have to winkle it around that clicker and rotate that in there good. And then we should be ready for our pinion gear shaft. Alright, and now this little clip that gets us engaged with the pinion gear. And I've got that on just a little too tight. So you want to adjust that so there's minimal amount of lash, but not pushed so far against the main gear that it binds. So I think that's about good right there. Make sure that's good and tight. Okay, now we should be ready to insert the rest of our, well, basically the rod that operates the push button, and this plate here went on towards that left side, So now we can take this and push this back up through. And re-engage those into the little hole there. And do the same over here. Well, actually, before I do that, I really need to grease these. I'm not going to be able to access the gears for greasing unless I do this, unless I grease these first. And while I have maximum access, oil the threads on the drag and the anti-reverse pawl down there. And then run that drag in and out and get that oil up in there. And a little up in here as well. Alright. Now we should be back ready to put this on. Oh, need to oil that shaft too. Okay. All right. Now we should be ready. We can go ahead, I think, and put a little grease on here where the button engages, and slide that back on. I think we can go ahead and put our handle back on. And get a little grease around here. And maybe a little right there. And get our spool back on. Making sure that drag is all the way off. You can see the spool want to ride right down as soon as the drag is sufficiently off. And then we're ready for our retainer clip here. And the screw that holds it into place, or the bolt, I should say. Okay, now we can put on our spinner head with clockwise turn. You don't have to tighten it terribly tight. That'll just make it harder to get off next time. I don't want this line to get fouled up with the cover when I put the cover back on, so I'm going to go ahead and thread it through, because I guess I'm going to save that line. Make sure your drain hole is down at the bottom, and then all of your line is out of the way. Now get off of there. Make sure that drain hole's at the bottom. Find your little punch outs. Make your clockwise turn. And that's working beautifully. Turn our drag on a little bit. Test our drag. That's working fine. One of the best Spincast, probably the best Spincast reel ever made, in my opinion, in terms of simplicity coupled with quality and durability. Like I said, every one of these that I find at a reasonable price I buy, to make sure Not that I have any concern. I could have just a couple and expect less the rest of my life, but I'm kind of a hoarder. So there you have it. The 1967-1968 version of the Zebco Spinner Model 33. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching.